Good morning, dear learners. Welcome to teaching learning session. In our last lecture, we discussed about some service marketing mix, and today we discussed about the extended marketing mix for the services. What all are the extended marketing mix for the services, right? Marketing mix, that managing people is very important, right? People constitutes the very important dimensions of management of services in their roles, both as the performance of the services and the customers, right? People are very important. People are very important, right? People are the customer as well as they play the role of the service provider. So managing, right, these role as a performer of the services and the customer is very important and crucial. People as a performance of services are important because a customer sees a company through its employee, right? Why managing the performer or people as a performance services are important? Because the customer sees a company through its employee. Employee is the face of the organization, right? Employee dictates about the employee gives the impression about the organization, because they represent, employees represents the organization, right? So customer sees a company through its employee, how the employee behave, treats and provide services. The employee represent the first line of contact with the customer. The employees are the first line of contact for the customer in the especially in the service sector, right? So they see the organization or the business or the company through employees, right? It is required that the employee should be well informed and provide a kind of services that means the customer's approval, right? So it is required that the employee should be well versed, well informed, should be knowledgeable, and should treat the customers in a dignified way so that they could win the customers approval. So managing people is very important, right? Whether it is in the form of customer or employees. Service personnel are important in all organization, but more so in an organization involved in providing services, right? If you will take care of your employees will take care of your customer. It is a well-known saying in the service industry, right? That service personnel are very important in all organization, but especially in service industry. The behavior and attitude of the personnel providing these services is an important influence on the customer's overall perception of these services. That is, the attitude of the service personnel and the behavior of the service personnel, how they behave with the customers, what is the attitude of the service personnel, it plays a very important role. It impacts the customers perception about the organization, about the company, about the services, right? It can create a confidence in the services or the organization, or it can dissatisfy the customers. So service personnel plays a very important role, and the behavior and the attitude of the personnel providing these services is an important influence on the customers' overall perception of the services, right? One has to be concerned with the way in which one company can improve the quality and performance of service personnel, right? It is important that the quality and the performance of service personnel should be good, and it is important that organization should be concerned with the ways how they can further improvise the quality of the services they are providing, and how they can improve the performance of the service personnel, right? And this can be done in many ways. First is through careful selection of training of personnel. It is very important that you should select your training personnel very carefully. That is the selection and recruitment process, that one should select and recruit the persons very carefully, laying down the norms, rules, and procedure to ensure consistent behavior. There should be certain rules, certain norms that should that everyone should follow, because it will ensure the consistent behavior. Everyone should follow the rules, new norms, and the procedure, so that there should be consistency in the behavior. First is ensuring consistent appearance, right? Then one should ensure the consistency, that rules are there for the consistent behavior, but it is important that ensure that consistency should be there. Reducing the importance of personal contact by introducing automation and computerization wherever possible, right? So wherever possible you can automate the system or computerize the system, and this way you can improve the service provided to the customer. Another important aspect is the customer, that is the, we started with the managing people, right? It is important that you should manage your service personnel, that, and then customer also comes under the people, right? Because customers are people who purchases your product. It is important to manage customers too. Customer are important because they are source of influencing the other customers, right? That is word to mouth matters a lot. This type of publicity has more impact than any other mass publicity idea, right? So customers are important because they are a source of influencing other customers. It is important that you should keep your customers happy so that they could influence other customers. It is important to ensure that complete satisfaction of the existing customer. The kind of customers that you attract exerts an important influence on the prospective customer. That is what I said. It is important that you should keep your customer happy and satisfied, so that they could influence the other customers and could help you in attracting the other prospective customers, right? The kind of customers that you attract exerts an important influence on the prospective customers. The prospective customers may feel attracted towards the organization because it has his type of customer, or the customer may turn away if they perceive the existing customer to be kind with whom he would not like to associate, right? See, what I said in a previous slide is the kind of customer that you attract exert an important influence on prospective customer. It is very important that it depends on your target area, that is the target audience whom you are targeting, right? The prospective customer may feel attracted towards the company. Why they attracted feel where they feel attracted towards the company or the organization, it is because of his type of customer, or the customer because of his type of customer that you are catering, the type of the customer who has a similar kind of demands like me, right? And customer may turn away, right, if they perceive that the existing customer to be kind with whom they would not like to associate, right? You have to decide about the class of the customer you would like to have or work towards providing your service organization and image which will fetch you your future customers. So it is very important to decide your target audience to whom you want to cater, right? It is important for any of the service organization to decide the target customer whom you would like to have and work towards providing your services, right? Because it will create an image, right? And that image will fetch you your future customers, all right? The target, it is, in short, it is important that you should target your customers, right? To whom, to which group you would like to provide the services, right? What are the challenges of service personnel? It is important to manage the service personnel as well as to manage the customer. There are the certain challenges with the service personnel faces. What are the challenges of service personnel? First is boundary spanning roles, right? Service employee Employees are known as the boundary spanners because they function at the boundary of the organization. There are these certain boundaries defined for the personal service personnel, right? So they function within the limit of those boundary of the organization. They serve as a bridge between the organizational internal activities and its external customers, stakeholders, and the environment. They have to play an important role because because they play a role of a bridge between the internal activities of the organization and the external activities or the external customers or the stakeholders or the environment, right? So at times they faces the challenges. They play a vital role in comprehending, sorting, and evaluating the data and material entering and leaving the organization. It is their responsibility, or they play an important role in sorting out, comprehending, and evaluating the data and materials entering and leaving the organization. Right? They should have. It is responsibility of the service personnel to maintain a database. They have a variety of duties to perform, some of which can be contradictory, which makes their jobs challenging. Right? At times, that company or the organization demands to play the contradictory roles, and this makes their jobs challenging. Right? So the first challenge is the boundary spanning role, that the service personnel has to play a boundary spanning role. These boundaries have been defined by the organization and they have to play an important role in that. Then emotional labor. Emotional labor occurs when there is a mismatch between how service employees feels internally and emotions that management expects them to display in front of the customers. The other type of challenge is the emotional labor, right? However, see, emotional labor occurs when there is a mismatch between the actual emotions and which the organization expect from the employees to be displayed to the customers, right? So this is an emotional labor, that it is a mismatch between how the employee feels internally and the emotions that management expects them to display in front of the customer. Sometimes it mismatches, and it becomes difficult or challenging for the employees to match these demands. Then a role conflict. Service employees usually need to manage the numerous tasks and the customers at once, which frequently lead to the workplace conflicts. Right? There could be conflicts. Why could be the conflicts? Because of role overload and the role ambiguity. Right? Because of the role overload, they have to manage many tasks, and because of the role ambiguity, right, that there could be chances of the conflicts at workplaces. So role conflict could be there, right? What the role conflict is the personal or role conflict. Person service employees may have conflict between their personalities, self-perception, and belief and the demand of their job. So conflict could be these conflict could be the personal or role conflict. Like service employees may have conflict. Service employees may have a conflict between their personalities, right? Because of the personalities there could be conflicts. Because of the self perceptions there could be conflict, and the belief and the demands of their job could be the reason for the conflicts. Or organizational or client conflict. An employee may encounter a conflict when conflicting expectations are placed on them by the organization and the clients. See, there could be person or role conflict. It could be because of the personalities, it could be because of the belief system, it could be because of the self perception, or it could be because of demand of their jobs. There could be, then there are another type of conflict, that is the organizational or class conflict or client conflict, right? An employee encounter these types of conflict when the conflicting expectations are placed on them by the organization and the clients respectively. That organization is expecting something else and client is demanding something else, and organization is trying to provide something else. So there could be, at that time there could be the organization or the client conflict. For example, more department store assign their personnel the task of maximizing sales per customer through suggestion and engagement. Customer, however, prefer to be left alone to make their own decisions, and support should only be provided upon request. So these are the organization or client conflict, that the organization is pressurizing the employees to assist the client and persuade them for more purchases, right? And through us, that is, and what the customer wants, the customer prefers to be alone so that they can make their own decisions, right? And whenever they ask for the support should be provided only then. That at this time there could be a conflict. If this is the situation of conflict for the employee, right? That organization is expecting something else, organization is expecting to assist or to persuade the customer for more purchases, and what the customer wants to be left alone, right? Then inter-client conflict will be there. Employees frequently found it difficult or impossible to satisfy the complete feelings and wants of group of heterogeneous clients when serving a large number of customers at once. Right? Any college classroom where teacher must accommodate a wide range of students, expectations and varying preferences for format and style will obviously show this type of a conflict, right? So interclient conflict could be there, right? When you are serving more than one client at the one time, then at times it becomes impossible to satisfy the needs and the wants of the complete range of the wants of the group, which is homogeneous in nature, right? So they it becomes difficult for the employee to perform. Then there are the interclient conflict could be there, right? So managing people is the first extended services which one should do. Then managing physical evidences even plays a very important role because it creates a sort of confidence in customers. It is difficult to understand and evaluate the services before making a purchase of that services, as services are intangible and often produced and consumed simultaneously. As we know that services are intangible. Intangible means you cannot touch them, you cannot feel them, right? While other goods are tangible, you can touch and feel them, right? So it becomes difficult to understand and evaluate these services until and unless you purchase them and consume them, right? Only after then you can understand and evaluate the services, because services are intangible, right? As a tangible proof of services, the physical evidences serves as a primary criteria for determining the customer's expectations prior to the purchase, and this has an effect on the way in which personal and customer interact. See, as we all know that that services are intangible, it becomes difficult, intangible, it becomes difficult for it becomes difficult, or it is difficult in fact to evaluate these services before consumption. It is important that first of all you should purchase and consume the services, then only you can evaluate. In this scenario, these physical evidences plays a very important role, because these physical evidences creates a confidence in the customer or among the customers, right? So this is the primary criteria. These physical evidences are the primary criteria for determining the customer's expectations prior to the purchase of those services. In the physical surrounding, the customer experiences the services, which has also impact on the service personnel and customer interact. Physical evidences means what? Physical evidences means could be the service personnel, could be the building, how they interact with customer, and how can a customer interact with the service provider. The environment in which services is delivered and where the firm and managing the physical evidences, the customer interact is defined as physical evidence, right? See, the environment, there is an environment in which the services is delivered, right? There is an environment in which services is delivered, and where the firm and managing physical evidences the customers interact is defined as the physical evidence. You see, whenever the customer interacts with the employees, right, that is defined as a physical evidence, right? The environment in which the service is delivered and where firm and managing the physical evidences the customer interact is considered as physical evidence. They are tangible clues that promote these services. It helps to improve how well customer perceives the quality of these services, right? When everyone knows that there is someone with whom, when the client knows that there is someone with whom you can communicate whenever required, and they will listen to your problems and will fulfill your demands and needs, then it improves the consumer perception towards the quality of the services. So physical evidences plays a very important role. The physical evidences communicates the credibility of these services. How credible those services are because, as I said, where at times it is important that indicates the physical evidences creates a confidence, right? There are two types of physical evidences, that is the physical peripheral evidences and the essential evidences, right? So there are two kinds of physical evidences, the peripheral and the essential evidences. What are peripheral evidences? Peripheral evidences is actually possessed as a part of a purchases or services, but by itself is of no value, right? An airline ticket, a checkbook, or a receipt for a confirmed reservation in a hotel are example of peripheral evidences. Peripheral evidences are what? These are actually possessed as a part of a purchase of the services, that we have purchased your services. It shows that we have purchased your services, but as such or alone, it has no values, right? The services, whenever you ask for the services or whenever you purchases some services, there are some evidences for the purchase of the services, and those evidences of purchase of services is known as peripheral evidences, like air ticket that you have paid for, that air ticket is a peripheral evidences. What is the actual services that they will help you to reach to your destination, right? A checkbook, as such checkbook, if you don't have an account or if you don't have money in your account, if you, even if you have a checkbook and no money in the account, then checkbook is of no use. If your account is deactivated, then you cannot use your checkbook. Yeah, although you might have checkbook, a checkbook or a receipt of confirmed reservation, all these are the peripheral evidences. Peripheral evidences adds to the value of essential evidences, right? It adds to the value of essential evidences because it creates a confidence among the customer. Such evidences must be designed keeping in mind the overall image which the organization wishes to project, and reminder values of evidences is in its ability to remind the customer about the organization, right? So it is, these evidences must be designed keeping in such a way how, what type of an overall image which organization wants to project in the mind of the customer, right? And it is the reminder value of the evidence in its ability to remind the customer about the organization. Again, these peripheral evidences, what another role, that is first role it plays is it creates it helps in creating an image of the organization, as well as it act act as a tool to remind the customer about the organization. Say for example, whenever you get that extra pouches of those salts, peppers, and seasoning, pizza seasoning with whenever you order the pizza from Domino's or Pizza Hut, you might have received those extra packets of pizza seasoning, right? Why they provide you those extra packets of pizza seasoning? The first way to keep you happy, that they want to create an image that they want to, so they want to give you the best so that you should be happy and satisfied. And the second thing is, the organization know that whatever they are providing the extra packet, which you might not consume right now, right? But whenever you will see that packet of those extra pizza seasoning, that organization will come in your mind, and there could be the chances that you would like to avail their services again and again. So these peripheral evidences plays a very important role. Right. What are the essential? The other type of the evidences which comes under the physical evidences are the essential evidences. Essential evidences cannot be possessed by the customer. They cannot be possessed by the customer. The building, its size, design, interior layout, decor, logo, equipment, and are the constituents of essential evidences. All these are the essential evidences. Like you have a building where your staff is working, the designs, the interiors, or the logo of that particular company, that cannot be possessed by the customer. The essential evidences is very critical input in determining the atmosphere and the environment of the service organization. And these essential evidences plays a very important role, a critical input in determining the atmosphere and the environment of the service organization. What type of a service organization is that? Right? Effect of service scape on behavior. In context of services, this service scapers refer to the intentional manipulation of physical aspects that creates a service environment or atmosphere. Right? That service scape plays a very important role. And what is the service scape? Actually, that service scape refers to the intentional manipulation of physical aspects. Right? When you intentionally manipulates the physical aspects, that creates a service environment or the atmosphere. When you deliberately manipulates the physical aspects, service customers and employees are key to success of services, right? And the environment in which services are provided has a significant impact on how they behave. There are two main models for explaining how service model or service setting affects the customer and service personnel in provided by the environment psychology, right? There are two models which explains that how service setting affects the customers and the service personnel in providing service personnel, right? How these settings impact the customers as well as the service provider, right? The first is stimulus organism response model, that is OSOR. Stimulus organism response model. According to this model, the people's affective state or emotions and feelings are influenced by the environment, which in turn affects how they behave, right? So this model states that that anyone's if affective state or emotions or feelings are influenced by the environment, and these emotions, right, in turns affects how they behave. In the model, the multi-dimensional environment serve as a stimulus, while customer and employees are the organism that respond to this stimulus, and the responses are behaviors aimed at the environment, right? What is in this environment? The multi-dimensional environment. There are the multi-dimensional environment, and that environment serves as a stimulus, right? That those are the those impact that stimulus means those things which impacts the affective state or the emotions of customers and employees. While the customers and employees are the organism that responds to the stimulus, there are many stimulus and the customers and the employees respond to that stimulus. That is how they behave, or what could be their affective or the emotional state, right? And the responses are the behaviors aimed at the environment, right? Those stimulates impact their the emotional or the feeling of the customer, and they respond in a particular behave, and they respond in a particular by behaving in a particular way. So the responses are the behaviors aimed at the environment. So everyone behave as per the environment. Why they behave as per the environment? Because of the emotional state of the customer or the employee, and the emotional state was influenced by the environment, right? So this is known as stimulus organizational response. The underlying principle is that various aspects of the service scape will have impact on the customer and the employees. So I hope you understood what is the service scape. Service scape is nothing but the environment, that is the manipulation in the intentional manipulation in the physical aspects that creates a service environment or the service environment, and the service environment impacts the affective state of the customer and the employees, and that affective state is responsible for the behavior of customer and employees in a particular way, right? The underlying principle is that various aspects of the service scape will have an impact on the customers and employees, and that these individual will act and react differently based on their internal response to this service scape. So what is the underlying principle? That there are the various aspects of the service scape, and those service scape, those aspects of the service scape will have an impact on the customers and the employees, right? And each and every individual will behave differently based on the internal response, right, to those service scapes. According to the environmental psychologist, people often respond to the environment in one or two opposing ways. That is, either they approach to that environment or they avoid that environment. All desirable activities that might be directed at a specific location, such as desire to stay, explore, work, and attach, are considered the approach behavior. So these stimulus is responsible for the behavior, and as per the psychologist, environmental psychologist, people often react to the environment in two opposing way. Either they approach to that environment or they avoid that environment. In approach, if they prefer to work, if they prefer to stay back, if they prefer to explore, if they feel attachment, or these type of approaches are known as approach behavior. The reverse, that is desire not to stay or not to explore or not to work or attach, is reflected as an avoidance behavior, right? The next is valence and intensity model of effect. What is this valence and intensity model of effect? According to this model, affect can be represented by the two interrelated dimensions, that is the pleasure and the arousal. Pleasure is what? Valence, and arousal is what? Intensity, right? Pleasure is a direct subjective response to the environment that depends on how much an individual like or dislike that environment. So pleasure is actually what? Pleasure is nothing but the subjective response to the environment. That is the subjective response to the environment, and that subjective response depends on the individual, that how much that individual likes or dislikes the environment. That pleasure, that is the valence, right? And arousal is less subjective concept than the pleasure quality, and describe how stimulated the person feels, right? These together, and what is arousal and intensity? It is less subjective, and it is actually what? That how stimulated the person feel, and these together decide whether people approach to an environment, spend time and money there, or avoid it. This is valence and intensity. That is, first is the valence, that is pleasure, or second is arousal. Pleasure or valence is subjective approach, how the individual like or dislike the environment, right? And arousals are, there are the certain factors, right, which describes how stimulated that person feels. The emotional state that are caused by the service environment directly impact or affect how customer and employee respond. So that emotional state, that environment is responsible for that emotional state, and that emotional state is responsible, right? Is responsible for the behavior or the response of the customer and the employees. Through the formation of emotional state, the environment can influence the behavior in form of approach or avoidance. Approach behavior can include the desire to remain at the service facility, explore and engage with the service environment, interact with other and fulfill, while avoidance is exactly opposite, right? That is manifest to desire or avoid the service facility, neglecting the service personnel and other customer. So all this plays a very important role. So valence and intensity model and SOL model states the impact of the servicescape on the behavior, effect of servicescape on the behavior, that the servicescape plays a very important role, right? So role, what are the role of physical evidences, right? That is, role of evidences is first is shaping the first impression, right? That is, it shapes up, the physical evidences shapes up the first impression. Whenever someone visits you or visits your offices, it shapes up the first impression, what type of facilities you have and what type of services you can provide. The whenever how your employees greet your customers over the phone or face to face, that creates a first impression, shaping the first impression. So physical evidences is responsible for shaping up the first impression. Then managing trust, it helps in managing the trust. Whenever there are the physical evidences, you have an office or employees working there and they are responding to your queries, and you know there is someone, do you know whom to contact in case of any problem, it helps in managing the trust, right? Next is facilitating the quality of services. It is responsible for the quality of these services, it facilitates the quality of these services. Then these physical evidences plays an important role in changing the image. As we said that there are two type of the evidences, that is the peripheral evidences and the actual evidences. That is the peripheral evidences, we discussed about the peripheral evidences and the essential evidences. So what are the peripheral evidences? Peripheral and essential, both evidences helps in changing the role or changing the image of the organization, right? Then providing the sensory stimulus. These physical evidences provides the sensory stimulus, and we discussed about the stimulus in the various ways, right? Providing the sensory stimulus, right? It provides us the sensory stimulus, that is whether how the stimulus, how the environment impacts the emotions, and that impacts those stimulus impacts the emotions, and then it turned out into then it impacts our behavior, right? So it provides the sensory stimulus. Then socializing the employees, it is very important because we all are social animals, right? It these physical evidences or the physical space helps in socializing the employee, where they can be in contact with each other, right? Shaping up the impression, customer forms an initial impression of service provider when they are exposed to the exterior and interior elements of physical and evidences of service facility, right? Managing trust, that is the physical evidences serve as a signal to the customers, right? Positive indication will reduce the customer fears and suspicions and foster confidence. That's what I explained you. Facilitating the quality of the services, a good service facility make it easier for the customer and employees to participate in creation, delivery and consumption of services. It ensures that necessary support infrastructure is present in appropriate place and operating as intended. Right? So, next is changing the image. The physical evidences has ability to modify how people perceive the service provider and the service outlet, right? Changing the image, providing sensory stimulants. The aesthetic element of the physical evidences may arouse the senses. The stimulus encourages a customer participation in delivery of services and quality perception. That's what we discussed. And socializing the employees. Employee cooperation is essential for services. If customers are to receive a high quality services by communicating the desired roles, behavior, and relationship, the physical elements help in employee customer socialization, right? So socializing employees are very important. Why? Because the employee cooperation is essential for services. If customers are to receive the high quality of these services and by communicating the desired roles, behaviors, relationships, the physical evidences, right, or the physical elements help the employees and consumers socialization. Service ambience foster the formal and informal interaction and aids in fostering the social ties among them. That is what I described, right? So these are the roles of the evidences. So physical evidences plays a very important role, right? Now the service quality. Service quality is very important. Service quality is a measure of how an organization delivers its services compared to the expectations of its customer. Customer purchases services as a response to specific needs. See, whenever a customer requires something or there is certain needs of the customer purchases these services, right? We always purchase these services whenever we need those services. We purchase the banking services when we feel like that we need those services, right? So what is the service quality? Service quality is nothing but a measure of how the organization delivers its services compared to the expectations of the customer. Whenever a customer is purchasing some services, there are certain types of expectations associated with that purchase. We discussed about the expectations in our previous lecture, right? So whenever a customer purchases services, there are certain expectations associated with that services, right? So service quality is the measure how the organization deliver, right, and deliver its services compared to the expectations of customer. Whether the organization is delivering as per the expectations of services or they are delivering higher than the expectations of the customer or they are delivering lower than the expectation of the customer. This is known as the service quality. Service encounters. What are the service encounters? Service encounter is defined as a moment when customer interacts with the service or the product for the first time. It is the customer's actual interaction with the service company. It is identified as a key component of the current agenda of the service marketer. Right? What is the service encounter? The service encounter is That is the moment when the customer interact with the service or the product for the first time, and it is the key component of the current agenda of the service market. And you can encounter through email, through phone, through face to face, right? Or in some, see, uh, in some seminar or anywhere you can have this type of encounter. Right. Now, relationship marketing is also important. What is CRM? Customer Relationship Management or relationship marketing plays a very important role. It is a strategy. Relationship marketing is what? Relationship marketing is a strategy of CRM, customer relationship management, that emphasizes that's the customer retention, satisfaction, and lifetime customer value. What are the key point of CRM? Customer relationship management, that is the retention of the customer, that we should be able to retain our customer, right? Then it should be that customer should be satisfied, then only you can retain your customer. And the lifetime customer value, that you should calculate the value of that lifetime customer value, how valuable that customer is. Its purpose is to market to the current customer versus the new customer acquisition through sales and advertising. Right? Why relationship is important? So that you can retain the old customer as well as get the new customers. Right? Relationship marketing includes the you can do it through marketing channels. Right? You can do it, that is business marketing, through networks. You can do that through services marketing. Relationship can be maintained, and through database marketing and direct marketing, relationship marketing can be done. What is customer lifetime value? CLV is a measure of the average customer's revenue generated over their entire relationship with company. Customer lifetime value is what? It is a measure of average customers revenue generated, that is, it is the average customer revenue generated over their entire relationship with the company. How much revenue has been generated? Comparing CLV to the customer acquisition cost is a quick method of estimating the customer's profitability and the business potential for long-term growth. Right? So this is customer lifetime value. What is the customer profitability? Customer profitability is a profit the firm makes from serving the customer or customer group over a specified period of time. Right? What is profitability? Is the profit a firm makes from serving a customer or a customer group over a specified period of time. Specifically, the difference between the revenue earned from the cost associated and the cost associated with customer relationship in a specified period. So, it is the, what is customer profitability? Is the profit that a firms make from a serving a customer or the group of a customer over a period of time. What is the service recovery? Service recovery is a company's resolution of a problem from a dissatisfied customer, converting them into the loyal customer. It is action a service provider take in response to the service failure. This is known as service recovery. When suppose because of any of the issues, your customer is not happy and satisfied with you, and when company resolve the problem of a dissatisfied customer and convert that dissatisfied customer into a loyal customer, that is known as the service recovery. That is, converting a dissatisfied customer into a loyal customer is a service recovery. What is service failure? That is, a service failure, simply defined, is a service performance that fails to meet the customer's expectations. What is service failure? That is a service performance that fails to meet the customer expectations. That is known as the service failure. When the service failure occurs, a customer will expect to be compensated for the inconvenience in form of combination of refunds, credits, discounts, or apologies. Right? That is when a service performance that fails to meet the customer expectations, right? Now the service design and development, how the services has been designed and developed, right? There is a life cycle, or there is a service life cycle, right? We all know, we studied about the product life cycle. As such, there is a service life cycle. Service life cycle is an approach to the IT service management that places an emphasis on how important coordination and control is across various functions, processes, and systems. They are necessary to manage the complete life cycle of services. This is the service life cycle, right? We'll discuss about this life cycle in detail, right? New services development. Service development is end-to-end process in developing and launching new services to be sold to the customer. What is the new service development? As the name indicates, that it is an end-to-end process of developing and launching a new services to be sold to the customer as per the requirement of the customer. This typically includes the market research, service strategy, customer experience, marketing, operations, launch of new services. All this is the first, the service new service development, that we develop a new services, and this includes the market research. Market research includes to know about the needs and the want of the customer. It includes the service strategies, it includes the customer experiences, marketing strategies, and the marketing and operation and launch of new services. That is when you launch a new services, right? Then it is important to carry out a service blueprint, right? Whenever you are developing a new service, it is important to carry out a service blueprint. What is a service blueprint? Service blueprint is a diagram that visualizes the relationship between the different service components, that is the people or the props, that is physical or digital evidences, the processes that are directly tied to a touch point in the specific customer journey. Think of service blueprint as a two to customer journey map. Service blueprint, as the name indicates, what is the blueprint? How will you provide the services to the customer? It is a diagram that visualize the relationship between the different points or the different service components, right? This is a diagram or which visualize the relationship, how each and every service component will be related to each other, like people, props, processes. What is the relation between the how the people, props, and processes will be related to each other, that are there, they are in directly, how they will be directly and indirectly related to each other. Why is the service blueprint important? A service blueprint gives a complete picture of how the services are related, how the services and related experiences is delivered, right? Why it is important? Blueprint is important. Blueprint is what? That is, it defines, it is a diagram which visualizes the relationship between the different processes, and it is important because it gives us a complete picture of how services and related experiences is delivered, right? End to end, front to back and across channel, right? How these services and related experiences will develop, will be delivered end to end, or back to front, or across the channel, right? It is a powerful that tool that simultaneously provides a high level view of the user experience and the detailed view of what is going on below the surface. So it gives us the idea of a view of the user's experiences, as well as what is going below the surfaces, right? As we started with the service quality model, there is a gap model of the service quality. What is the service quality? As we said, the what is the service quality? It is, the service quality is nothing but the measurement that what type of a services you are providing with respect to the customer expectations. right? Gap model of service quality helps to identify the gaps between the perceived services and expected services, right? So what is the gap model? As the name indicate, it helps to identify the gaps between the perceived services and expected services. 5 gaps occur in the service delivery process, like the gap between the customer expectations and management perception, service quality specification and management perceptions, and many more. See, gap model of service quality, there could be gaps like customer expectation. There could be gaps in the customer and on the basis of the company. Like the customer expectation, there could be the gap between the customer expectations and the customer perception, the service delivery, the service delivery perception, understanding the customer needs, and the external communication. There could be gap between the external communication, there could be gap between the understanding of customer needs, and there could be gap in the service delivery, and there could be a gap between the service perception and the service expectations, right? Measuring the service quality, that service quality measurement is significant managerial tool to understand the consumer needs and wants by analyzing the experience of customer and service provided. It can help the firm to find their weakness and advantage to make better services for the consumer, right? How could you measure the service quality? It is significant managerial tool, right? Right, it helps to understand the consumer's needs and wants by analyzing the experience of consumers in the services provided, right? So this service quality measurement helps to understand the consumer's need. It helps to understand the consumer needs and wants by analyzing the experiences of the consumer. Measuring the service quality. How could you measure the service quality? There is this cervical model, that is through the tangible dimensions are there. The reliability dimension you can measure, the responsiveness dimension, the assurance dimension, and the empathy dimensions, right? So they say these are the service quality. These are the how can you measure the service quality? Through cervical, the tangible dimensions, through the reliability dimension. Through reliability dimension you can measure the responsiveness dimension is there, the assurance dimension, and the empathy dimensions, right? There are 9 practical methods for measuring this service quality, like cervical, post service rating, follow up services, in-app surveys, mystery shopping, documentation analysis, customer efforts scores, first contact resolution ratio, and the metric analysis. All these are the method through which you can measure the service quality. What type of the services are you providing, right? First is through cervical, right? Second is post services rating. Through rating you will come to know, right? At times they tell you to rate the services. Follow up surveys, through follow up surveys you can measure. In app surveys, there are certain apps through which you can measure the service quality. Mystery shopping, documentation analysis, through documentation analysis you can measure. Through customer effort scores you can measure the service quality. First contact resolution ratio and the metrics analysis, right? Cervical is a multi-dimensional research instrument designed to capture the customer expectations, perception of the services along the 5 dimensions that are believed to present the service quality. That is the service. See, this is the multi-dimensional research instrumental design, which that is designed to capture the consumer expectations and perceptions of these services, what they expect and perceive about these services along with the 5 dimension, right, and are believed to represent the service quality, like service expectations and the service performance, that is the reliability. What they expect: the reliability, assurance, tangible, empathy, and responsiveness. What they expect: that the service provider should be reliable, so that we can rely on the services. And they want, the customer expects the assurance, that tangibility should be there because it increases the confidence. Empathy should be there. If they face any sort of the problem, the empathy should be there. Responsiveness should be there. So these are the services expectations as well as the services performance, and these lead to the received services quality, right? And whether you are able to fulfill all the expectations, and it could receive the service quality, what type of the service they receive as per their expectations, above their expectations or below their expectation, could lead to the customer satisfaction or dissatisfaction. So this is the service quality model, right, which actually tells us about the customer's satisfaction level, right? Service quality function development, that is QFD, is a systematic method to help identify the customer needs for design of the product in a way that is customer needs for the first time, right? So that's all for today. Thank you very much. Namaskar.